Hey everyone, ready to dive into a topic that might surprise you?
Oh, I think this one's going to be interesting.
We're going to tackle polygamy.
Okay.
Specifically, how it's viewed in Islam.
Right.
Based on this excerpt that you shared with me.
Hmm.
And get this.
Okay.
The source actually frames polygamy's purpose as like wise and noble.
Wow.
In an Islamic context.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
that got my attention.
It's a bold statement for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that we're looking at a specific religious perspective here.
For sure.
Not like a universal societal norm.
Got it. Context is key.
Yes.
So the excerpt jumps right into the Quran
Okay.
and points to verses that permit polygamy.
Interesting.
It even specifically mentions Surah An-Nisa 4.3.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
The source really emphasizes that it comes with some serious conditions.
Yeah, these conditions are really at the heart of how Islam views this.
Okay.
So the source is stressing just treatment of all wives
Okay.
and the husband's absolute financial capability to support them all.
So it's not just about having multiple wives.
Yeah.
It's about truly meeting those responsibilities
Exactly.
fairly and fully.
Fairness is central here.
This idea of just treatment, it's
Yeah.
central to this whole Islamic perspective, right?
Absolutely.
Can you elaborate on what that actually means in this context?
Yeah, so just treatment in this context covers a lot.
Okay.
It means ensuring that each wife has her material needs met fairly.
Mm-hmm.
So things like housing, food, clothing.
Okay.
But it also goes beyond that to emotional support and intimacy.
Oh, wow.
The husband has to divide his time and affection equally.
That's a lot to balance.
And the source acknowledges that like complete equality in emotions might not be totally possible,
Right.
but sincere effort is required.
I see.
Yeah.
So the source also connects polygamy to increasing the Muslim population, or
Yeah.
the Ummah, as it's called.
The Ummah, right.
And it even brings up a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, encouraging wives to have lots of children.
Yeah, the source highlights this concept of expanding the Ummah.
Right.
It's a significant factor.
And a larger Muslim community brings strength and influence.
It's all connected.
Okay. Then it takes a turn.
Okay.
The source presents polygamy as a potential solution
Oh, interesting.
for situations like if a wife is ill
Okay.
or if she can't have children.
I see.
And then it brings up the statistical argument
What's
that
that?
since women often outnumber men,
Right.
polygamy offers a way to provide for more women.
It's like a practical response to a social reality.
Yeah.
Trying to offer stability and care within this specific context.
So it's appealing to religious duty, social good,
Yeah.
and even practical solutions.
It's multifaceted, for sure.
But it's not shying away from the baggage that comes with polygamy,
Right.
even among Muslims.
Yeah, it uses some strong words.
It does.
Disrespectful, shameful, greedy.
Exploitive of women.
It really tackles those negative perceptions head on.
Yeah, it acknowledges the potential for selfish reasons.
It's surprisingly balanced, I think.
It is. It's interesting.
Right.
It even dives into some counter-arguments,
Oh, really?
like concerns about disrupting family harmony.
That's a big one.
The idea that some women might be left without husbands
Yeah.
if polygamy was widespread,
I see.
and the difficulty of ensuring genuine equality.
Yeah, for multiple wives.
Right.
It seems like the source is wrestling with these complexities itself,
Yeah.
presenting both sides.
Okay, then we get to a question I bet a lot of people have.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Why not polyandry?
Uh-huh.
Why doesn't Islam allow a woman to have multiple husbands?
It's a common question.
The source addresses it head on,
Okay.
lays out a few reasons.
Like what?
Okay, so it brings up men's biological capacity for more children,
Mm-hmm.
suggesting polyandry could lead to confusion.
Right. About paternity.
Exactly.
It's a biological argument.
Right. And it also implies that polyandry would disrupt traditional family structures.
Yeah, as understood within Islam.
Right.
It's all rooted in their understanding of biology, social order,
Mm-hmm.
and religious interpretation.
Okay, now there's a section I found really thought-provoking.
Okay.
Maybe a bit challenging.
What is it?
It's about how women are encouraged to cope
Go.
with the emotional complexities of polygamy.
That's a sensitive topic for sure.
It is.
And the source really leans on faith and acceptance.
So it urges women to trust in Allah's wisdom,
Mm-hmm.
even if polygamy feels difficult.
Yeah, aren't fair.
To believe it serves a larger purpose.
That is part of a divine plan.
Right.
That even if it's hard for you,
Yeah.
Allah knows best.
Wow, that would require a lot of faith.
And emotional resilience.
Right, especially from the women.
Absolutely.
The source acknowledges that,
Yeah.
says accepting this might be challenging.
But it also emphasizes the potential spiritual rewards.
For the women who patiently endure.
It's presenting this like cost-benefit analysis.
In a religious context, right?
Yeah, you go through hardship here.
Yeah.
But for a greater reward in the afterlife.
And then it frames polygamy as a way to prevent what it sees as like greater societal ills.
Interesting.
Even suggesting that restricting polygamy could lead to
what?
More women being unmarried.
Oh, okay.
And potentially push towards what it considers like immoral lifestyles.
It's like polygamy is a protective measure.
In a way.
Even if it's challenging.
So it's saying polygamy ensures that all women are cared for.
That's the core argument.
Even if it means sharing a husband.
Within Islamic teachings.
Right.
The emotional difficulties are outweighed by the supposed benefits.
But wouldn't that depend on how just treatment is actually happening?
That's a really important point.
If a husband isn't equitable, wouldn't the harm outweigh the benefits?
Absolutely. That's something the source grapples with, too.
It acknowledges the potential for abuse.
And inequality.
Even while advocating for just treatment?
It's walking a tightrope.
It really is.
Acknowledging both the good and bad outcomes.
Depending on how it's actually done.
Which makes this deep dive so interesting.
It does.
We're looking at such a nuanced argument.
So the source sees polygamy as this complex institution.
With its own logic and justifications.
But I'm still wrestling with some of the implications.
It's a lot to process.
Especially for the women involved.
It's important to remember that this is just one perspective. Deeply rooted in a specific context.
But by understanding it,
yeah,
even if we disagree,
we gain a deeper appreciation for how diverse humanity is.
And it challenges us.
To examine our own assumptions.
About relationships, family structure.
And how religion shapes society.
So as we move to the next part of our deep dive,
okay,
I want to explore some alternative approaches.
I'm ready.
If this is one way to address certain issues, what other possibilities are out there?
That's a great question.
One that takes us beyond this source.
Into a broader conversation.
About social structures, individual rights.
And a just and equitable society.
Stay tuned, because we're going to unpack all of that.
I can't wait.
And more.
It's going to be good. Welcome back to our deep dive.
As we're kind of digging into these arguments about polygamy from this Islamic perspective, I keep finding myself thinking about this idea.
Which one?
That women are encouraged to find comfort in their faith when it comes to like the tough emotional
challenges.
Yeah, the challenges of polygamy.
It's a really crucial part of the source's whole argument.
Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure. So the source emphasizes that.
Yeah.
For believing women, navigating this whole polygamy thing requires a lot of trust.
In Allah.
Yeah, trust in Allah's wisdom.
So even if it feels difficult or even unfair, women should believe that.
They should believe it serves a bigger purpose.
A divine purpose.
Exactly.
That Allah has allowed this.
And it's ultimately for the good of the community.
Even if they experience hardship.
It's about faith and submission to God's will.
But wouldn't that require so much faith from these women?
Absolutely.
And emotional resilience?
Yeah.
The source doesn't shy away from that burden.
It says straight up
that
this might be a challenge.
But it emphasizes those spiritual rewards.
For women who are patient.
Who endure these trials.
You're right. It's like a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah.
But in a religious context.
You endure the hardship here.
For a greater reward in the afterlife.
And it's interesting how the source frames polygamy as a way to prevent greater societal ills.
Like what kinds of things?
It suggests that if you restrict polygamy,
it
could lead to more women being unmarried.
Interesting.
And possibly push towards what the source sees as immoral lifestyles.
So polygamy is like this protective measure.
For women.
Even with all its challenges.
It's saying it provides a socially acceptable outlet.
Yeah, for men's desires.
And safeguards women.
From being alone and vulnerable.
So polygamy makes sure all women are cared for.
That's the argument.
Even if it means sharing a husband.
Yeah.
But doesn't that all depend...
On what?
On how just treatment is actually happening.
You're hitting on a key point.
If the husband isn't truly equitable, then wouldn't the harm outweigh any benefits?
Yeah, that's a major concern.
And the source acknowledges that
it does.
The potential for abuse.
Yeah, and inequality.
Even while promoting this idea of just treatment.
It's a tightrope walk, for sure.
Trying to balance those potential positive and negative outcomes.
It all comes down to how it plays out in reality.
So this source presents polygamy as this complex thing.
With its own logic and justifications.
And while I'm trying to understand that, I'm still struggling with some of the implications.
Especially for women.
Exactly.
It's important to remember that this is just one perspective.
Right.
Rooted in a very specific religious and cultural context.
By understanding it, even if we don't agree.
It helps us appreciate the diversity of human experiences.
And it challenges us to think critically.
About our own assumptions, about relationships.
About family and the role of religion in society.
Absolutely.
As we move to the last part of this deep dive.
I'm ready.
I want to look at some alternative approaches.
Yeah, to solving these social issues.
Because if this is one solution,
there might be others.
What else is out there?
That's a great question.
It takes us beyond this source's specific arguments.
Into a broader conversation about social structures.
Individual rights.
And just an equitable society for everyone.
Okay, so as we're wrapping up this deep dive into polygamy, from this Islamic perspective, it really makes me think about the bigger picture.
Yeah, what are your takeaways?
We've talked about like the justifications for it. The potential good and bad that comes with it, and even how it can affect people emotionally.
Yeah, it's complex.
But what I keep coming back to is this idea that polygamy is presented as like a solution.
A solution to what?
To certain social problems.
Okay, yeah.
Which got me thinking, are there other ways to approach this?
Like other solutions?
Yeah, maybe even more modern ones.
It's a great question.
Because the source we've been looking at, it says polygamy offers a way to care for women, to ensure their well-being, even to prevent certain societal issues.
Okay.
So what if...
What if what?
What if we thought about it differently?
Like how?
What if we focused on empowering women economically?
To give them more autonomy and choice.
Regardless of if they're married or not.
That's a big shift.
It is.
Instead of seeing marriage as the main way for women to be financially secure.
Exactly.
We could create systems that focus on equal opportunities.
For education, employment.
And financial independence.
Exactly.
So they're not relying on a husband.
Right. Because if women can support themselves, they're less likely to feel pressured.
Into marriage.
Yeah. Or to stay in a marriage they don't want.
That makes sense.
And it could address some of those concerns the source brings up about women being vulnerable or turning to what it considers immoral lifestyles.
If they're not married.
Right.
Economic empowerment changes the whole game.
It really does.
It gives women more control over their lives.
And the source also talks about polygamy as a way to ensure women can be wives and mothers.
Right.
Even if it means sharing a husband. So what if we challenged that assumption?
That marriage and motherhood are the only way for women.
Yeah, that those are the only paths to fulfillment.
It limits what women can do.
It does.
So if we broaden our understanding
of what makes a fulfilling life, then we open up all these possibilities.
Women could focus on careers, creative pursuits,
community involvement,
or all of the above.
And maybe if we move away from this idea
of marriage as just a necessity,
we could see different types of relationships.
Ones based on love and mutual respect.
Not just roles and societal pressures.
It's amazing how ideas about relationships
and family
keep changing.
What might have seemed necessary in the past
can seem outdated now.
Even harmful.
It all comes back to critical thinking.
Right. We can't just accept what we're told.
We have to question things.
And consider different points of view.
This deep dive has been a great example of that.
We explored a complex topic.
From a specific perspective.
We unpacked the logic.
And the strengths and weaknesses.
And we even tried to imagine different possibilities.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for our listeners.
We're not telling anyone what to think.
We want to encourage you to think for yourselves.
To engage with ideas, even the tough ones.
And to always be open to new perspectives.
Because that's how we grow.
As individuals.
And as a society.
By questioning things.
By understanding different viewpoints.
We can move towards a better future.
So keep thinking, keep questioning.
And keep exploring.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.